All right, look, I don't know where I'm gonna go with this recording, but I wanted to talk about the programming that is in media and also just societal expectations. We're always complaining about society, I know, but there, at least in particular, with young men, it seems, but I think it really goes for both sexes. Um, well, let me just basically, we don't need to be in a relationship. We don't need to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a wife or a husband if you're male or female or whatever. You don't need that sort of relationship with another person. You just don't need it. It's not necessary. What's needed is a relationship with God and a connection to God, and that will cure all loneliness. But there's a lot of things when we don't have God that we distract ourselves with, such as acquiring wealth or acquiring a mate or whatever else, just worldly possessions that will pass away. But these things are not necessary for you to experience life. I was just, I've watched, let's say I watched a few movies recently. I was watching the Left Behind movies, which are like, they're alright, they're okay movies, and they're not, whatever, I'm not gonna criticize the quality of the movies I'm talking about right now, but aside from this particular factor, I watched that, and I watched the movie Freebirds, and I just watched the movie called King Arthur from 2013, I think. And basically, what all of these movies had in common, and I watched these back to back, is there is a subplot, a romantic subplot, where the main character gets involved with a girl for basically no reason. It's not necessary to the plot. It doesn't really add anything to the movie, and it's very mediocre romance. Like, it's not even particularly good or anything. And it's just, it kind of, if anything, really, it kind of subtracts from the actual movie. But basically, there's these unnecessary romantic subplots of so many films and stories. And it is basically this programming, because I mean the people that make the movies believe it, and I think there's also probably, honestly, like an agenda here. This is the reason that there is such a thing as incel culture, basically. Well, one of the reasons. It's because we, especially in particular young men, as I said, are programmed to think that we need to like have a girl or we won't be happy. And so it just kind of, if you believe that, then of course if you don't have it, then you won't be happy, because I mean, part of happiness is just a state of mind. But honestly, I don't think that happiness is really the goal in life, and I think it's more about, doing the right thing than being happy. But anyway, I guess I'm kind of, I don't think that's the point. I don't think that's the point of what I'm trying to say, or the point of life is happiness. There's greater things to aim for than happiness. And you know what? Peace is better than happiness, and making peace with your circumstances is way better. And I had something I wanted to say. Oh, yes. I wanted to make the point that I'm not just saying this. I'm not just saying this so that we can nod our heads and then move on and forget about it. I'm saying this because I actually believe it, and I truthfully think that this is the case, that men don't need women. I don't think that women need men either. I think that we do, I think, sure, if that's God's plan for your life, then yes, but we don't need other people. What we need is God in our lives. We need God, and, it traditionally it was considered, it is considered traditionally like that it's best to be a celibate, to be chaste, if you're a Christian. And some of the greatest people who have lived, who have contributed greatly to society, were celibate, and they never married. The thing is marriage and just having a friend of the opposite sex, it's going to take up a lot of your time, and it's going to tie you down. There's these two books. One is Bliss of the Celibate, and the other is The Practice of Brahmacharya. And both of these books recommend against marriage, actually, it's something that you really don't hear in most places. Like, I'm not necessarily saying don't marry or anything. I'm just saying you don't need it. If it's God's plan for you to marry, then that's, this whole thing, it's just accept the plan for your life is what I think. But you don't need a girlfriend or a wife or a boyfriend or a husband. And these movies and just this programming in society, it's just this idea that the end goal is to get a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever, and it's just not the case. Like in this movie Freebirds, honestly, this so-called romantic subplot, which it basically wasn't. It was just the bird simping for the girl bird. Well, the turkey, really. They're turkeys, right? It's like, why are we? What's really like a turkey romance? We're subject to this. We're subject to watching a turkey romance that's not even very good. Like I could write I could write a much better turkey romance. I'm sorry. But and then in the Left Behind movie, there was the romance in Left Behind movies felt so inappropriate for the setting of the movies, and just so out of place. And a lot of times these romances, they just come up from nowhere. They're just the directors or the writers or whatever, they're just oh yeah, and we should make these two characters get together at the end of the movie because reasons. That's just what happens. That's just what we do. It just doesn't. If you look at these stories, it just doesn't really add anything to the message, to the lessons of the stories. And just pay attention next time you're watching a movie, and just really ask yourself, what does this just tacked on romance really add? And then consider, in your own life, what would tagging on a romance in my life really add to it? Or maybe it would subtract, and you wouldn't realize that. It's not everybody's destiny to get married and have kids. It's not. And I'm not just saying this just because I want to believe it. I'm saying it because I actually believe it, and it's actually true. You don't, regardless if you're a man or a woman, we don't need each other. We need God. That's who we need. Maybe if you don't have God, then maybe you do feel like you need other people, but you don't need other people, really. You need God. That's what you need. And, I guess I don't have too much to say. There's only so much coming to mind right now, but maybe I'll expand on this. We should have higher goals than these worldly, so many people get married. It's not in the grand scale of, the destiny of humanity, it's really not that important for, at least maybe it's not. I don't know. I guess technically I don't really know. I'm a man. I'm not God. I don't know all the plans, but I just think that you don't need to be emotionally distressed or have this problem of your heart where you feel lonely all the time. You just don't need to have it. You have that because you believe that you'll never be happy unless if you have this this partner in your life. And then it's like this end goal. And it's like that's not the, I don't think that's the end goal. That's not the end goal of life. You should, listen, you don't need a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever. You need God. It's as simple as that. But nothing, just explaining this, I can't really explain it in a way that will just convince you logically that what I'm saying is true. You just need to kind of try it out. Just kind of try out having peace with the idea of just being alone, if that's your destiny, if that's God's plan for your life. And try to grow closer to God if you're not already. And when you do, you will realize that you don't need another person. It's not necessary. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to make this too long, so I guess that's all I have to say. And I guess God bless everyone.